Yeah. Um, I would say if anything, JP, you're probably what maybe in week three right now. You're getting through some of the initial underwriting and learning how to value real estate and everything. How's like the early couple of weeks been going for you? Have you been experiencing some learning, or has there been some roadblocks, or what's been going on with you in that world?
It's just fantastic. We are now contacting brokers
Yep.
and getting things done with Zen. He's doing an incredible job with us, Zen.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
That's great to hear. Yeah, it's like that's kind of the initial thing. Like we always kind of joke and say, it doesn't happen overnight, but when you build those relationships with those brokers, I mean, I was on a call this morning for about 25 minutes with another member, Dayton. He's got something that he's looking in like South Arizona, like South. It is down there, and
Uh,
but it's a really cool business. I mean, absolute net lease, $7.9 million, 65 grand a month, net operating income. And the seller's wanting to leave like 60% in the deal.
Wow.
It's like a 5 year net lease. So we just went through it with the broker this morning on if it feels good on paper, but also we just got to really work through the numbers and make sure that it's, is financially sound as what we want it to be, that kind of thing. So, but he got that from a broker. He got that from a lead from a broker. He didn't go out there and find that. So what you're doing right now, JP, you're laying the foundation, the groundwork, that kind of stuff will 100% pay off. It's awesome.
yeah, but I can tell you, I've been talking to a few, as a community leader, I've been talking to a few brokers out there. It's just like what I'm asking, telling them, it's just like, hey, there's no place for what you're telling us here because uh, uh 10 caps, stuff like that. We don't find them here. I said, okay, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, nothing's out there until you make the offer. Everything is being offered at a 7.5 cap, and that just means someone's essentially just not very motivated. And then when you find motivation, I literally just left one of another building downtown, and he was like desperately just like we got to figure out a solution on this. Like I'm underwater, this, that, and the other. So it's like when you hear like in the voice, it's like you don't want to sound like a jerk, but that's the time to pounce and step on their neck and go for it, that kind of thing. So that doesn't come up every day, I'd say, but when they do come up and you're prepared because you've got all the people in your group, you've assembled you're a team properly, you're able to take action with that, that kind of thing.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good to
Who else? What else? I would say, if anything else, with Matt Smith on here, when that opportunity does present itself, and we do go into contract, just know who we're calling for our earnest money deposit.
Sounds good. Yeah,
You
if you
want to
guys
give
can
you
help
want to
with
give a
that
little
one.
overview on that, Matt, just one more time for those that are newer or have heard the story before, but just kind of I try and brag about you every week because of what you do. Could you give everyone on just a brief overview of kind of the service that you and your team offer?
I appreciate that, Nolan. It's been a little while since I've been on. Missed the group. I like the tightness of this small group, and all the things that are going on. Love the industrial space. Um, so I provide escrow protected transactional funding for investors. And one of the avenues that Nolan has latched onto is the earnest money deposit funding. The way we work that is if you need that 20, 30, $50,000 EMD, I have connections that can provide it, and we work with title company or the attorney to structure our documents and how they treat those funds and how they are refundable if we happen to cancel because the deal doesn't work out. In terms of an end buyer, like most of us are here, typically we have to structure the verbiage in the document to ensure that your close of escrow and your contingency investigation period, inspection period, whatever you want to call it, are one and the same. So you're closing on the day that the contingency is lifted. That's where we would specialize and be able to provide that value to you. Otherwise, you would have to come in and replace those funds. But let's say you have three offers out there and you get two under contract and you need those funds. That's where I can come in and help. And So I do have a document summarizing it, what the terms of it are and how we work to protect it. So if you guys are interested in that, reach out to me. My cell phone's right there. You can
Yeah.
reach out that way. Instagram as well. There are other strategies, double close. If you find a property that is you get a great offer on and it's valued much higher, we can leverage a double close arbitrage to get in it with similar to kind of a seller finance, except you're using the A to B and the B to C gap in purchase price to fund the down payment on the final purchase. So that's a kind of a higher level strategy that is people like us doing higher commercial acquisitions do to basically get in on things like this with none of your own money. And what I would provide is helping you with the strategy, but also the transactional funding. If you need, a couple $1 million, I can provide that on the transaction on the day of closing. So, if you want to talk more about it, we can hop on a call and we can go through that.
Yeah.
Matt, I
That's
have a
great.
quick question.
Yeah.
So with the double closing, typically don't you have the appraisal that comes in for the original closing, because especially if you're using a typical bank, because they don't want the value to be higher than what you're closing at. So would you just order like a second appraisal, or how would you actually do the double closing where you show the second value of like a $5 million versus the 4 million that you're kind of closing on? How does that typically work?
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, the example that I give to people is one that I was involved in. I inserted myself as the A to B buyer on behalf of the B to C buyer. And so he went to an agent and they had a property listed for 800,000, and he did a quick analysis, got a desktop appraisal in this case with a connection, and he knew he could get funding at a purchase price of 1.1 million, and he came in at about an 85% loan to cost. So he was the A to B buyer. Me was buying it for 800,000, but we had that $300,000 gap on it based on the appraisal. So what you would show the bank is your end purchase price and not what your actual acquisition price is on it. Does that answer your question, Jim?
So you would show them the 5 million valuation of what the actual value is, and not the closing value of the 4 million?
Yeah.
They typically don't like to see that where you're coming in with instant equity.
Right. So it's in those situations. I mean, picture it like this way. Let's say you went to a wholesaler and the wholesaler has gotten a sweet deal on this, but they know the market value is several $100,000 more. In your case, $1 million more.
Mm-hmm.
It's two separate transactions on the same property, and all the bank is exposed to is the B to C side of things, the end purchase price, and it's a separate entity. Typically that's how we kind of separate it. Different investors do it different ways. You could use my entity on the A to B, or something where there's no relationship, and so I act as the first buyer. I do the transaction on the first side, but we have a second contract that now I'm selling it to you at that full price, and then we have a JV agreement in the middle saying, okay, here's how we're going to work out the numbers to ensure that you are able to have the down payment you need on it, and then I walk away with my fees and profit on it as well.
So the seller's not going to really see the higher value of the second closing if you go to close.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So the seller is only aware of the $4 million, and then the bank and you as the end buyer would be, on the other side of it.
Okay.
And as long as your seller doesn't have a contingency, then you're off to the races.
Right. If there was a contingency, or if you're doing a seller carry, which I know is a commonplace practice that you want to do, but let's say that doesn't work, Because that seller carry really, it would be tricky to have it transferred to the B2C purchase. But yeah,
Quite often with our pro forma, we're looking at things kind of discounted anyways. We're not looking for, if someone's coming out with the offer price of $5 million, we're typically not going to pay the $5 million because it's just quite often not kind of working with what we're doing. But
yeah,
if it sounds like a good solution here if we can get the negotiation down far enough.
yeah, that's exactly right. You could,
I would say it gives
buy
you
it
at
at
least two. Oh, sorry, Matt, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, on the A to B, you're buying at a 10 cap, but with
Right.
the bank, you're valuing at a, I don't know, 7 cap or whatever. But you're
Exactly.
taking that, like you said, that instant equity. That's a good way to put it.
Does that,
More leverage with the seller. Maybe he wouldn't have to leave the entire 25% in the deal. He might only have to leave 5 or 10%, right? So it would just give you some more wiggle room and some flexibility, to close.
Right.
yeah, exactly. If they're not willing to put anything in the deal, then this sounds like another option where it's less money out of our pocket.
Right.
100%. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'll say this too is if and Matt has shared on school in the past like his one pager on what he does. I believe you even emailed it to me, Matt. What I'll do, guys, too, is I'll just share that one pager on school so y'all can get your eyes on that. But get familiar with Matt just in our group, everyone, because when you guys are, Richard's on here. He's got a deal under contract right now, $1.5 million deal in Atlanta. It's like that's prime time opportunity to use Matt's services where while instead of you having to show up with a 25 grand of earnest money or more or less, instead use Matt's services, you're able to focus your time on going and raising the capital or, negotiating a stronger lease or whatever it would be versus, you coming up with the money. So just another thought there. So
Thank you. Thanks for the
who else
time.
is on here? I was scared. What else is anybody else working on here? Positive, negatives. Are there some roadblocks people are hitting? Is there some success stories that people are going through? We can kind of dive into some deals that everyone's working on if you like. But I also kind of just like to out of the gate get everyone's opinion on where everyone is right now.
I got a potential deal that the current owners want to leave 40% in the deal.
Yeah.
And I was like, the more the merrier. So I'm getting their lease info and whatnot, but it's like 1.1 million. It's over in West Texas. I think it's like an 8.5 cap, but I think I'm gonna go in around 950 and let him put 40% down for the down payment, and I'll get the 60% from the bank. So
Business is he, and what's the deal? Like, how did you like run us through how you found it? Like, what's the story on that? How'd you get into it? Or how?
I called actually my residential realtor that helped me buy the house that I'm in, and I got with her, and I was like, hey, I'm kind of getting in the commercial space. Do you have any commercial brokers and that you're really good friends with? And she introduced me to one, and she's been sending me OMs like crazy. And this one looked pretty good, so I might hop on it. Well, once I get more info, we'll see what the current lease is. But the current tenants are a company called Fleet Pride, and they basically just store like truck parts for big 18 wheelers, and I think they're actually a service center as well. But yeah, they got like 2.5, 3 more years left in their lease, and I think it's like 8,200 a month, their current lease. So yeah, we'll see once I get more info.
Yeah,
on their lease and whatnot.
No, that's awesome. And I'd say this for everyone too. It's, not that you have to have courage or bravery or anything, but even reaching out to some of the local residential realtors that and saying, hey, I'm getting into commercial real estate. Who's the guy that you run with that you could recommend me to? Like that conversation right there, everyone's in my book, I think positively everyone wants to help somebody else, right? No one's gonna lock up the key and throw away the key, and say, oh, you can't do business, right? Like this lady that you're talking about, Dustin, she's probably, she's like you said, she's a friend. She wants to help you succeed, right? Like the same way
Yeah.
that if she called you for something, so that's one positive thing. I'll say this too. So I refinanced a building yesterday and yesterday afternoon. And just to go with what you're talking about, Dustin, like, they're pricing it at an 8.5 cap. You mentioned the transportation business. One of my bankers, and this is another piece for everybody, getting that relationship with a local banker. Yeah, him and we closed this refinance yesterday, but another really important piece is, again, when these banks are really the ones that are financing the majority of our deals, they want to be your financing consultant as much as they want to be your banker. Okay. And I'm saying that as if, I mentioned this guy to you guys before. Like, for those that were at the live event last year, my guy Mason Morris and Patrick Levette, they set up and they were talking about, our friendship. And I mean, I'll go get like some beers with these guys, every other week just to like see what's going on. But as much as they want to lend money because it's how they make money, they want to consult with you. Like, when I have an idea or a thought, I say, okay, this is something that I'm thinking about doing. What's your opinion of this? I mean, they want to give you their opinion because, again, it's going to help them make money if they lend you the money. But for you, that's just another eyes and ears on the ground from a conservative perspective, right? Like, we're all risk takers by choice. The banks are conservative by nature. So if we can have not only our aggressive approach, but then we get a banker's perspective and they say, hey, look, this is one thing you might want to consider or potentially look out for. It's going to maybe help you underwrite the deal a little bit stronger than maybe if you're only looking at it from your perspective or your broker's perspective, who's incentivized to do deals based upon their commission and their earnings, right? So just a little thought that, like I said, I was sitting with Patrick yesterday. We closed that loan, and I was asking him about a couple other deals and that I'm considering. And he's like, this, that, hey, this sounds pretty strong. This one's outside of our footprint, the whole other thing. And if I don't know if Dayton's on here, talking about Dayton and I's deal we were speaking about this morning. He's like, hey, the trucking business can be strong, but it can be spotty. Just to be clear, make sure that if you're going to find a local bank, consider maybe a credit union. Just like certain little tidbits that you can get, because when you develop a relationship and really ends up being more of a friendship, that's when you end up getting, transparent advice versus advice that is loaded with somebody that's incentivized by, you closing the deal. Does that make sense? Does anyone have a thought on that? Like, that's what, for me, when you develop a relationship and a friendship with these guys, they want you to succeed as much as they want to succeed too. But when especially if they can't help you and they're still offering you advice and helping you understand a deal better, that's when you can make better, accurate choices with, what decision you want to make on a building. That makes sense. Just a thought. And I'll get off my high horse and I'll take up an offering for my sermon I just gave everyone. So, yeah. So what else is next? What else is, I'll say this too. When you guys are, starting to buy deals, I'm working on another thing too. Like I said, my Mason was actually in my office this morning too. We were talking about something else, but another thought, when you guys buy, let's say your first property with, let's say, a partner, right? I'll give you an example. Let's say that you buy $1 million property and you do the homework, you find the adjacent site. You're the sponsor of this deal, right? Not the limited partner. You're the sponsor. And the seller doesn't want to leave money in the deal. So you raise the capital with your partner and they bring $250,000 to the deal. You guys close it. You guys come to an agreement, but probably offer him 100% of the cash flow until he gets his principal repaid. That's what I offer, my limited partners when that pops up. Okay. Does anyone follow that? What I mean by when I'm saying that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So if it throws off, let me give you an example. So if we buy $1 million property, let's say it throws off $120,000 a year, $100,000 a year of net operating income. After debt service, our cash flow is $40,000 a year, right? Call it that. My partner shows up with the $250,000 of the down payment. And what I offer them is I split the equity 50-50. Him and I would split the equity 50-50, but he gets 100% of the cash flow until his principal is repaid. Okay? So the reason I offer that is because it gives me as the equity owner more upside. The cash flow at the end of the day is a bonus, but think about the depreciation deduction that you're going to get if you or your spouse are a real estate professional that can offset your other income. But eventually the rents are going to increase and bump, and then the building's going to be worth double, and you're going to participate in half of the upside versus only 10 or 20% of the upside. So that's why I make that offer. But what you guys can consider doing, like put yourself in these shoes for a second. Let's say you guys just closed $1 million building yesterday, okay? And your partner, you split the equity 50-50, you did that exact deal. They brought 250 to the deal, and it throws off 3,000 a month of cash flow, right? Hypothetically. It pays out for a couple of years. The rent goes out, it goes up. What I'm doing right now is because I've got 4 buildings left that I have partners on. And what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to find ways when I don't have a deal that I'm a new deal I'm working on, I'm negotiating with my partner to buy them out of their 100 of their 50% equity. So I'm working on a deal right now. It's the one for those again that were at the live event. It was my tenant that it was in East Cliff, where we had lunch and the guy had the cooler of beers. Is anybody there for that? Yeah. I don't know if Richard had left at that point or not, but yeah, he had like one of my tenants had like a cooler full of beer and lunches for all of us when we showed up there when we were driving around all these buildings. Well, that building I'm in 50% partner with another friend of mine, really. And they brought, it was like, I'll spare the exact numbers, but it was like $160,000 to the deal or $175,000 to the deal. And their monthly cash flow was like $2,000 a month. It's just ACH and the auto drafts. And so what I did is I texted them and I said, hey man, there's a potential I have a capital gain problem somewhere else. Are you have any desire to be bought out? Like, are you, or not? If it doesn't, I mean, I'm not trying to say you have to do this or not. He's like, actually, I'm thinking about doing this, that, and the other. And yeah, I mean, just make an offer to us. So I called my banker up that has the debt existing, and I said, hey, Ryan, what do you think about this? And let me just pull this email up. Let me show you what I sent him, just so you guys can just show you the transparency here. Let me see. All right, let me share my screen here. I shot this like last week. Let me pull it over here. So 5508 East Cliff by. I'll show you guys the building if you guys want to see it. East Cliff, just so you guys can get your eyes on what it looks like. So this is the building, okay? It's this property right here. Obviously, it's a little bit of an older photo, 2016. So it's got 3 tenants in there. One guy occupies these 2, another guy's over here, another guy's over there. So that's the building right there. And so what I did is, like I said, I bought it with a partner. I could show you the HUD statement too, but I'll spare you. But what I did is I've got all these lease extensions from all these tenants. So I know what they're going to pay me, every month for the next 3 years, essentially, right? So I think it's bringing in like $7,100 a month, I think. Mm-hmm. Something like that, right? Whatever the numbers are, $7,100. So what I did is I said, attach the lease extensions for the tenant. I spoke with my partners and they were open to being bought out. Here are my thoughts. I owe him right now $532,000 roughly. It could be more, it could be less, like in some change. I'd offer them $150,000 buyout. I'd borrow $150 from him from Millennial Bank to refinance the mortgage to total the debt at $682. I'm currently paying $384 a month in debt service. So my mortgage right now actually is at like 8%. So I said, so debt today is at 7%. I can buy the rate down, which would cost me like $20,000. And I buy the rate down to 5%. That only increases my debt service by like $100 to like basically $4,000 a month. So what's your thoughts on this? If this is a game plan, I'll make the offer. And so he responded to me. And this goes back to that relationship with your lender, right? Like, let me jump on this. Let me take a look. Talk to you soon. Confirming you're good with this. I'm going to ask the appraiser to reappraise based on the updated rents. By my rough calculations and using the same cap rate, it should work out. Let me know. So I said, sounds good. I'll make the offer. My partners will get back with you. So I just share all that is like when the deals when you don't have every single deal flowing your direction, sometimes another opportunity is because if I go back to the, probably don't see it. Well, let me share it one more time. Just because this is how you increase the value is over here. If you go down just to the right a little bit, this lot, this lot right here is like 2.5 acres. It has this like almost like a diamond shape, and it's for sale. And this dude's pretty motivated. I actually spoke with him on the phone like a month ago about it. And so what I could do then, of course, is, I mean, imagine just grading this, graveling it, fencing it, and securing it. And then all of these guys now, because in the back here, they even have like a bunch of laydown yard behind it, and opening this up for another acre and a half of laydown to either to these guys or to somebody else, right? Like just some business that just needs space for laydown. And so for me, I know that. And that's just me as the sponsor of the deal. I'm like, all right, if I can buy these guys out at the existing value, at what it's valued today, and then tomorrow I can go in and increase the value, I'm the one that's earning that upside, not my partners, right? Now, that's neither here nor there, but that's kind of the way that I'm trying to think about it. And so when you don't have like 15 deals in your pipeline, that opportunity is there to, because you're increasing your equity for 50 to 100%. Your partner's thrilled because he gets all of his money back plus a capital gain. And now you're in 100% control, and you were still in the deal for no money. And you'd have to use a seller. You'd have to have a balloon payment. So just a thought there, guys. I mean, I'm just kind of sharing something I'm working on right now. But it's like being able to just be strategic with your time, where you're finding these deals, they're coming on board. And then when opportunities does present themselves, interest rates shrink a little bit or whatever, and you've got, somebody that might be motivated to sell out, bam, you pop it, and then you get 100% equity, which, by the way, is another 50% of bonus depreciation headed your way. So just a thought there, So has anybody got a thought or a question on that? I mean, like I said, I'm just I try and be transparent on what I'm kind of working on, and I know everyone else is the same way. So, yeah, something along those lines.
I like the thinking out of the box. I mean, that's tremendous because, again, doing the traditional route, I've kind of run into some, roadblocks. I'm not seeing many deals myself, or seeing the things that have been sitting out there on Crexy or whatever that people have passed over for days or months and months and months. But thinking outside the box and looking at the other properties around it and other opportunities is definitely, I guess, an area that I'm trying to start looking into myself, or trying to find things that are off market. But I really like again, trying to generate other ways of producing that revenue in there.
Yeah. And it wouldn't be free to go in and purchase that lot and to improve it, of course, but
Right.
the upside of what it could be valued at in the future, it's almost like I'm willing to take that risk to earn the reward versus splitting it up with somebody else, that kind of thing. So just another way of thinking about it, I guess. Yeah.
I think it also goes to show just like the benefits of owning stuff like that, just stuff in general, real estate in general, because you have all this ability with interest rates fluctuating and everything to change the financing structure and buy people out, like you've been saying. And then also you have this lot right next to you that you probably, or maybe have never even would have gotten in front of or seen that was on the market if you weren't in the property that was right next door. So I don't know. I just think it's like one of those things. It's like the harder you work, the luckier you get type of thing.
Yeah. 100%. I would have never looked at that site or that lot next to it. But of course, it's me also having that relationship with my tenants where I'm going back and forth. And one of my tenants there is actually a life insurance client. He buys trucks with policy loans. So it's like, that's a whole other thing. But he goes, hey, you should call, this is one of my friends. He actually owns this lot. You need to call him if you're trying to, I was like, well, shit, give me his number, so that was like a whole other way of, I even got in touch with this seller because I was trying to be a good landlord and a good teammate to my tenant, that kind of thing. So it just kind of all comes in circles where you're focusing on putting other people first. Where again, my partners, I just asked them, hey, would you guys have any interest in being bought out of this thing? And I just was transparent about why. And they're like, this is actually great timing because of X, Y, and Z. I'm like, all right, well, let me call my banker, see what he thinks. And if it makes sense, then cool, we'll do it. If it doesn't, it doesn't. We'll be right where we are. And they just appreciated like the honesty and the upfrontness. And I think we'll end up doing a deal, and it just allows you to just take way more control over your portfolio versus having to answer to other people. So just a thought there, I guess. Yeah. What else? What's next? Yeah, happy to underwrite a deal. Happy to look at what anybody else is working on. I want to just be efficient with our time. So that's why I wanted to at least bring up what Matt does. Zane, you guys got anything you're working on? Any most importantly, are there roadblocks that people are experiencing? Because that's out of the gate when you're first getting started, it's really difficult to turn the tire because you feel like you're in the mud. You're trying to work and you're going uphill. But it's like once you get some traction, things to start really starting to head up in that direction. So is anybody hitting roadblocks or potholes that you're just like, damn, if I could just find a way to get over this one thing, I feel like I would, it would break open the gates. Does anybody experience anything if they want to be open?
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
I was just gonna say I just started, so not really. I'm still working on the homework piece of it, but I appreciate y'all letting me join in.
Awesome. Caleb, I was gonna say, yeah, I know you just got joined in. It's great to see you, man. Give us kind of your story real quick from 30,000 feet, who you are and what you're trying to do.
Okay, so what I'm trying to do is what a lot of y'all talked about is financial freedom. I do not I'm gonna say the creative financing that you went over in the first videos and working with investors is going to be mostly the route that I'm looking to go. I want to eventually, I want to have multiples. I don't want to just do like one, but I'll probably, I'll start off with the one and then work my way up like everybody else is doing. But I'll say experience. I've done residential real estate. I have not worked a whole lot in the commercial piece of it, so I'm excited about this.
Awesome, man. No, that's
Yeah.
great. We're happy to have you, man. And I was going to text you this afternoon and get on just a one-on-one call with you too. But man, we're happy to have you, man. Excited for what's next. So thanks for making it today. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
What were you mentioning, Jim? He didn't mean to interrupt like that. What is the story?
No, that's all right. I was just because I'm kind of newer too still, but one of the things I've been running into and is reached out to various brokers. Typically, they've been providing the things that have stood on the market or whatever, things that other people have passed through that someone's offering it at a certain, like going back to the example, $5 million. But when we do our pro forma, it comes down showing like maybe 3.5 million or whatever for us to get in there. And some of the frustration is, again, talking to one of the deals specifically turned out to be was an older man that was trying to sell his thing. He had a great location, great lay down yard, tremendous type value in it, but he was just very, very stubborn, wasn't going to reduce his price at all. And there's the type of things I've kind of been running into, finding the various things that hit in our what we're looking for, less than a mile from the interstate, something that has the two roll-up doors, the industrial 10 to 40,000 square feet. So I've been seeing a lot of those, but in terms of trying to make the numbers work, that's kind of more the frustrating part. But I was looking back or listening back to some of your previous live calls, and there was actually one towards the beginning of the year that I think we had talking about infinite banking with I think it was Michael or
Yeah, with Mike. Yeah,
Mike,
Schreck.
that's it.
Yeah.
But at the end of that, Adrian, I think it was Adrian got on and was sitting there saying that she was running for the exact same things, and some of the conversation that came up that you were talking and making recommendations to is just submit the LOI, because no matter what you do, I mean, even if you submit 40 LOIs, there's chances of them coming back a couple months later or rethinking things or things not going the way, whatever the situation changes, they're coming back and actually reaching back out to you. So I think that's the point where one of the things I'm going to start doing, making sure I do to actually going out and walking the properties now, submitting the LOI at the number that, kind of works for more pro forma. And in addition to that, I've been just talking to various people. I mean, my neighbor behind me is this basically a therapist back there. He was telling me, I mentioned to him that I was starting to look into investments and commercial type stuff, and he popped up with a deal. He said, yeah, one of his buddies is selling some 200,000 square feet that's up in like a really small town, maybe like 45 minutes north of here. But he said it's kind of off market thing. He's just wanting to retire. So I looked into that. The numbers weren't really working out very good with that, and the location wasn't going to be best. But those type of things are starting to, I guess, open me up some more, saying, okay, just kind of throw things out there, see what happens. There's various things, a another friend of ours that's been doing residential type stuff. I was telling her we were getting into the commercial. She was like, "Let me know if you need an investor, someone that can help provide some money." I'm like, so as I'm starting to get into, I guess, more of the expanding out, letting people know, look at things, and get off the just sitting back behind the computer looking at stuff, then it's kind of interesting how things are kind of opening up. But
And 100%. And on top of that, that's just for everyone to what Jim's talking about is, not that you are just sitting behind the computer and whatever, but most importantly, you it sounds silly to say, but like bravery and courage and things like that. I mean, that's talking about like, going across the world and fighting in a military battle or something. That's the way I would think about that. But it does, if you're someone that's not necessarily introverted or even extroverted, but you're putting yourself out there into the unknown and giving yourself an opportunity to be judged, basically, right? And so if you can, as a person, get over this thought of like, man, I'm afraid of being judged by somebody here, and or I don't have any fear anymore of someone's opinion of me, this will go such a long way, because then you'll be like, well, wait a minute. And it kind of goes back to, I've said it before, but like Derek Jeter, when they said, hey, Derek, you're 0 for 16. And he's like, well, the math says I'm one at bat closer to getting my next hit. It's like, if we know going in, hey, imagine you talk to 15 people and they all said, no, go kick rocks. But that 16th person that he wants to invest in your next deal, you'd be thrilled to hear the no's, And then you just get more confident because you're like, well, man, I can get better at my pitch. I can talk about more about how you can have more, authenticity and transparency with how you're offering it. People get into that. They're like, because eventually you as the sponsor, that's they're investing in. The building is the building. Like the tenant is the tenant, the debt is the debt. Like those things are just what they are. You and I and all of us here, we are the conduits to these investors and even to the seller when we go and pitch them on seller financing. Like us as the conduit, we are the ones that are in the center of it that people buy into. Like we're the ones that are in the center of the solar system here, And if you guys can have the charisma almost, and that's what I hope to educate and teach on and work the whole thing through and partner with you on. When you have that like ability and the confidence to go in and say, this is what we're doing, this is how we're going to do it. Look at the debt, this is the numbers, and you're able to walk somebody through a pro forma, like a simple one pager. This is why this deal makes sense. And I thought about you because I know that you did this, Y, and Z, and you had appetite for something like this. People are like, oh my God. You'll discover that people will literally respond and be like, thank you for thinking of me. Like we had a fear. Myself, I was the same way. I had a fear. Man, I'm just some kid that I'm trying to get some of my dad's buddies to invest in a project that I'm working on, right? Or whatever. I had a fear of rejection. But then when I started texting, Zane seen me do it, every single person in my phone and said, I've got this project, I've got this deal that I'm gung-ho on, I believe in. I know that you might have some appetite for real estate investment, or you might not, but I thought of you and I wanted to share it. Maybe we can get on a call and discuss if you want to invest in it. Majority of the time, I have not had somebody told me, say F off, go kick rocks, delete my number. That's never happened to me. 8 out of 10 times they always respond with like, hey man, this probably isn't for me right now because of X, Y, and Z, but thanks for thinking of me. That's really cool that you thought about me. Can you keep me updated on your next deal? Like that's usually 80% of the time the response, And then you're like, well, wait a minute. That's pretty much how everybody is. They just want to be involved. They want to be asked if they want to, you're offering them something. You're not asking for money. You're offering them an opportunity. And when it's positioned that way, then you're the one that's in the driver's seat and you're not like begging, like you're not sitting some big old banker behind the desk. It's like, hey, I got a really cool opportunity. I'd like to offer you the chance to invest in it. And, that's the kind of way, then the confidence just to compound for you. And you just never know where you're going to take off. I mean, that's kind of that's my consensus at least. Someone got an opinion on that, or has someone experienced kind of like, similar responses from people when you're asking them about deals? But like, it's quickly you can discover, like you said, oh, I got a guy that's a guy, or hey, I got a friend, I like to invest. Like it just happens so quickly when you just put yourself out there like that. That's kind of the thing that I discovered.
Yeah, I agree. I've actually had the same exact experience just running deals by the more passive partners in the collective. For members deals who are more active, when I go and text them and say, hey, you're the first person I thought of,
Yep.
They're like, man, thank you so much for thinking about me. I'm super interested. Absolutely. Give me his number, that type of thing. So people are definitely looking to invest their money. A lot of people have a lot of money. And we just need to give them opportunities to throw it at, you know?
That's right. That's what we're here, sponsoring deals.
As I'm learning, I'm having that question in my mind actually. It's for the future, but from your experience, uh, let me put that scenario just like that. Me personally qualified for a deal. My LLC qualified, and I have a trust. All three entities are qualified. From your experience, the openness of bank financing and seller financing, which one should I put in for?
Regarding how to position your deal.
Yes, which one to use,
Which entity to use?
yeah.
The way that I usually do it, if again, this is just from my attorney's perspective and what he told me to do. So let's say that you got 123 Main Street tied up. You just tied it up. What I'll do is I'll just create a new entity of 123 Main Street LLC, and then my business Sandberg Holdings is the one that is the 100% owner of that new LLC. It just creates a little more separation, a little more privacy, that kind of thing. If somebody really wanted to find out who owns those entities, they could find out, but I like to keep it like all these buildings have their own. The LLC is just whatever the address is. And then my business owns that individual LLC. Like Sandberg Holdings is at the top and is umbrellaed over all of the entities of these buildings that I own.
Okay, that's make perfect sense. Last question is about you know I'm from Canada. I have a couple of friends out there. I'm talking, about, they're asking me question about the CIE collective, and I said I know nothing. If you guys have nothing up there, I don't know what's. I know that some of the program that we have here they don't have up there, but they are really interested. My friends and some family members from Ottawa, Montreal, they are really interested. You have nothing up there, no?
Well, I'll say this, your friends, what I used to do, and I'm fortunate to be in the spot where, I've got a couple of guys that I know that have appetite for certain things. But when I said I'm not exaggerating. I went down to my phone and just called everybody and their brother, every freaking person and their brother. And I mean, literally, I even called my grandparents. Like I was calling everybody about hey, do you have appetite to invest? And it helped me as selling something, right? And selling my investment. But your guys that are up in Canada and gals too, if they have appetite to invest in the I don't really know the Canadian laws and I just don't know that, but I bet you the depreciation schedule is a little bit different. The incentives a little bit different up there.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more on the liberal side, not right or left or political. Just it's it's not as capitalistic as what it is in the States. So, but your friends from out of the country have the opportunity to invest with you in deals, obviously. I would, when you got that next opportunity, I'd call them and I'd be happy to, help you do like a Zoom call with them and we can walk through, the proposal for finance, the spreadsheet, the calculator. I'll show you how I've raised money in the past and how the emails and the templates that I'd send out to people, how I would raise the money from the debt from the banks, all that. That's kind of the whole point that we're all chasing is once you get that deal tied up, that's when the real selling begins. That's kind
Okay, you're talking doing deal out here or up there in Canada, because I would never do deal up there in Canada.
No, I'm only speaking about the United States. Yes,
Okay,
I'm an American through and through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's next? What's that? What else? Anybody else working on?
That's something else I wanted to run by you.
Yeah.
Just again, I'm kind of in the phase of just trying to figure out how to the best find various properties and stuff like that. And I'm trying to think back. Right now, everybody has a lot of equity, just like in a house. You have a lot of equity kind of built up. Things like doubled in price in the last few years and stuff like that. So I kind of think the same philosophy with a lot of these business owners that own some industrial properties. And I was wondering that for a way, because to help them kind of get money out of their property. Maybe there's, they're looking for opportunity to invest or build or do something like that. So I'm pretty good with technology, looking up things, computers, all that stuff. The idea I was looking at, or one of the paths, is to find these business owners that own some industrial buildings. You can look at that type of stuff and the business name and the Polaris and stuff like that to find out who it is. Go to them, find out how long. You can also look up how long they've owned it. So if someone that's been sitting in the same building for like 20 years, they have a ton of equity kind of built up into it. Maybe put a proposal out there to them saying, hey, to see if they'd be interested in selling it to me or someone else, and basically then taking that money and doing a lease back type offering to them, where they end up paying, if they have like $3 million or $2 million, whatever the number is, built up in equity. This is a way for them to pull it out of their business and expand the business or do whatever the case. They can do something else. But again, just hitting some of the struggles of looking at some of the properties where you got these things that have just been sitting out there, not moving. I'm looking for another path where it might cause a little movement.
The reason why that is, Jim, if you can think about it, like if you can, my dad always used to tell me, ask the question why 5 times and you'll probably find the answer to the problem.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And the reason why I think a lot of these buildings are sitting, or they're not trading, or most importantly, they have a bunch of equity in a building, and they know it, but they just don't know what to do, is because they are not real estate investors. Most of these people that own their own building are in the steel fabrication, they're in glass supply, they're in distribution, they do something. And someone gave them advice 20 years ago, hey, you should actually own your own building, because your business can grow and you don't have to pay rent and you get equity, like all the fun attributes of real estate that we always talk about, right?
Right.
What I've tried to do, and that's kind of what the seller calculators for, like the email templates, all that stuff is for, is what I focus on when I say at the same time, it's like always focus on getting to know them first, that build the rapport, the whole thing. But if you can focus on, and I have it written down, of course, but it's always like letting your partners know, letting your seller know the especially like the value of, well, a sale leaseback is one thing, but like the cash on cash return. Or most people, especially sale leasebacks, they've got all this money tied up in equity or tied up in ownership of their property. They have opportunity cost. Do they want to keep the money in their building, or do they need $3 million out? Maybe they can go and expand and turn that $3 million into $9 million, right? Versus it just sitting. And I spend a lot of time asking questions, discovering, what their next couple of yearly goals are. Like, is what you're doing now, like, are you doing now what you said you wanted to do a year before? Like, what kept you from, making a different decision? Like, just asking questions, getting to the root cause of like why they're not wanting to sell or why they are. And then after they understand like why and how leaving money in the deal or actually selling their building is valuable, that's when they're going to be like, okay, I got to call this Jim guy. He's the only one that educated me on this, So I spend a lot of time, especially on the seller finance side, on like how and why leaving money in the deal is so important after they've already told me about how they're going to get hit by capital gains. And then I go a step further. I educate them a little bit on like, not like into the weeds, but just like, hey, taxes are a list of incentives. Like we talk about with the book Tax Free Wealth. Like, if you're paying taxes, that means you're not doing what the government is incentivizing you to do, which is reinvest in your business, which is to X, Y, and Z. And I said, so what my job is as a seller consultant is literally to help you pay no tax and to do the things the government's asking you to do so you lower your tax burden. So when I educate them on that information, and then I say, I want to offer you an opportunity, that's when they're just like freaking wide open. They're like, well, tell me what the solution is. What's the solution? I want to offer you the opportunity to leave money in this deal. And you have this like confident, like go at it approach. They just like, well, I know, don't listen to me. Yeah, go consult with your accountant first. Go speak with him. And then that's when I'm not exaggerating. That's when they call me the next day and they're like, I know you offered me 300. You think I could leave 450 in the deal? Because their accountant is like, this is actually a good deal because of exactly what that guy just said. And then you actually probably could be better off paying less tax by leaving this amount in the deal. And then it's the oxytocin release. And they're like, anything that I say moving forward is just like, the word of God, basically. It's crazy.
Do you think they would have incentives for basically approaching people that not even are thinking about people that don't have things listed up where you go to businesses with the sale leaseback type thing? Would there be benefit to them? Again, it's just
Sure.
companies that have been sitting there for 20 years, they got a ton of stuff sitting up to prepare basically an
Sure.
offer letter to them saying, giving them opportunity to do this. I mean, the way you could present it, basically, so here's an opportunity when it prevents. You see it all the time with residential type stuff where people are just sending out emails and just letters and stuff like that saying, hey, do you want to sell your property? This is what I'd offer for it.
And that's I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I love that idea. I mean, I get letters in the mail all the time for stuff, probably, you know, like maybe even for like your residential property, like, oh, I'm interested in buying or whatever. That's
Right.
obviously that's not tailor made to that specific person. Imagine if you had a letter that had like a cool letterhead on it. It looked
Yeah.
professional. You signed it in blue ink. You hand delivered it to them, and you said, "Look, man, I'm in commercial real estate. I've done some homework on your building and your business. You guys are absolutely killing it. I'd like to offer you an opportunity. Maybe I could buy you lunch and just go over some ways that you can get a bunch of money out of this building. You can pay
Yes.
very little in tax, and on top of that, you can still run your business more efficiently in this site, and you have more money to invest in your business. Can I buy you a cup of coffee and discuss it?"
Right.
Who says no to that? You know, how fair of an offer is that? You know, because you tailor made some letter specific to that person. And I mean, that's kind of, I mean, I learned that from my broker Sam. That's kind of one thing that he's been really good at. And so I started doing that. That's kind of how I came up with this whole seller finance like strategy and like all the steps on how to speak to these guys. It's like once you go over how to do it like that, and you're legitimately saving the seller money and it's beneficial to him, they want to leave more money in the deal and they are partnered up to you. Then they're like, then they want to see the deal through at that point. Then
Right.
they want to close the property, you know? So that's been my experience at least. Like just as and I think your idea is great, Jim. Honestly, I'd like to work with you on coming up with a letter like that because I'll start driving up and down roads, dropping those things off.
Yeah, it sounds like it's just a huge opportunity. Again, there's so much equity just sitting in there over the last
There
like
is.
5 years. Tremendous.
Yeah, 100%. I love it. I think it's great. All right. Well, look, I don't want to get out like this, everyone, but I got a 4 o'clock other thing coming up. I got to go pick up my kiddos. But what I'll do, everyone, is I'll upload this video call for everyone. So, of course, when you're driving in to work or whatever, listen to it. Just put in your earbuds as you're thinking. Just think about the vocabulary, how to talk about things. Practice. I mean, I can't go even a step further on this, even too. It sounds funny, but Zane has seen me do this. Like it's like I'm kind of a kamikaze at this point, but I'll be in the car and we'll just go back and forth and I'll say, this is how, what do you think about this? What's the vocabulary? What's the tone like and Zane is the seller and we'll just go back and forth like that. Like just practicing your seller sales pitch like that. It feels weird out of the gate, but once you do it 100 times, it becomes just second nature because if you have the conviction to actually help somebody, they can feel that and they're way more likely to have their guard lowered down and like want to hear you out and hear what you have to say. You know, just a thought like that. So is that good?
Yeah, appreciate it.
All right. Awesome. Caleb, great to have you guys. Jim, Dustin, thanks everyone. I appreciate JP. It's been awesome. Parker, Dayton, Michael, Matt. I don't know if he's even on there still. So and Brett's back there too somewhere. So thanks everyone for making it on. I'll upload this thing here shortly and shoot everyone and what I'll do as well is I'll get Matt I'll look at my email what Matt sent me. I'll put that up on school so everyone can see that just on like the earnest money financing that they do. Just allows us to get into deals with literally none of our own money, which is the game that we're all chasing. So thanks everyone for making it. I'll get this thing rolling and we'll go from there. All right. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks a
Yeah.
lot.
See you guys.
Thank you.